All right, so in this video, what I'll do is I'll tell you exactly about how to calculate your calorie deficit. This is the number one question that I get, and I mean, if you open up my DMs, you'll see people be like, "Hey Taha, this is my age, height, and my weight, and just tell me how many calories should I be taking." Right? They get this idea that you can get any calorie number for your goals from these apps like MyFitnessPal. Like you just put these details in, and it will tell you how many calories you should be consuming, right? But my usual answer is, I mean, to their question, like, I don't have any fucking clue, because the amount of energy you need to get through your daily activities is very individual to you, and I just can't know what it is like just by knowing your age, weight, and like height, right? So your calorie number is individual to you, and it's not based on the type of people. It's not based on the demographic. It's not based on the skin color or ethnicity, etc. Right? So I mean, even two identical twins can have the same calorie needs, or sometimes they don't. So this is the issue with apps like MyFitnessPal and MyPlate, that they give you this option that allows you to select how much weight you want to lose, and people choose the highest number because they're desperate to lose weight, right? So instead of choosing 1 to 2 pounds per week, they go for the maximum number that they can choose for, and I mean, most of the time they choose like 3 or 5, maybe sometimes 7 to 10 pounds per week, and because of that, these apps put them on 1,000 to 1,200 calories deficit, right? And then they wonder why they're starving. They try to grow from like 0 to 100, whereas what they should do is they should go from 0 to 10 first before making that big of a change, right? And so there was this study that was done recently, not recently, but I think last year, and it stated that MyFitnessPal usually has everyone under eating. That's the standard, right? Because this is how they lure people in, because and they also make them, like, this is how they make them use the application, because they bring in people, they give them such a low number, and when people start following it, they start getting like quick results, right? But that's like a very short-lived result. It doesn't last long. People think because of MyFitnessPal, people think that there's a standardized number of calories that people should eat. Like for instance, a kid who plays football has to have specifically 2142 calories. Like, why? Or sometimes a woman who's over 20 should have 1400 calories, or maybe a woman over let's say 40 should have 1000 calories, because with age, and because with age they have like I don't know, somehow broken their metabolism or something, right? Or maybe like a man over 30 should have like 2500 calories. So where did this idea come that you should have these little calories, or like any number at all? Like, why? How? That's all wrong. There is no one number, like I have mentioned. A lot of people think if they have to undereat to lose fat, it's how it works, which is true to some extent. I mean, you have to undereat to some extent to induce calorie deficit, because when you create a calorie deficit, you do undereat than your normal usual intake, but it doesn't mean that you have to cut down from 30 to 100 calories to 1500 calories or 1200 calories. That's just insane, in in my opinion. So I mean, honestly, I'm calling myself out as well, because when I was just talking about it right now, it just hit me, because this is exactly what I used to do up until 2016. This is what I used to do as well. I used to follow MyFitnessPal rigidly, but over time, with efforts, with trial and error, I have learned that these apps are just gimmicks. they're good in their own way, like food logging, journaling, but for them to give us a calorie number based on age, height, and weight, that that's bullshit. So your number is individual to you, and you don't have to eat less and less just because you're growing old. It doesn't. It's not proven scientifically that your metabolism slows down. Of course it does, but it doesn't take that big of a hit. So I mean, if in your 20s you're able to consume 2500 calories, maybe in your 30s you'll be able to consume 2300 calories. So there's only 200 calories deficit naturally that your body will be able to take on, right? So do not just assume that you have to starve to lose weight, because that's what most of the people do, especially because of these random online calculators and applications like MyFitnessPal. It's not sustainable long term, and sometimes even short term, it's not. Because honestly, here's what you do, right? So you sign up for MyFitnessPal, you put in your details, you get a number, you start following it. On an average, you were consuming 3,500 calories. Now it's giving you a number which is about 1,200, 1,400, right? You start starving and you start eating less from Monday to Friday. And then on the weekend, you binge eat, which puts you back in the same place as before you started. So the only difference is that you spent a week worth of time and energy into almost nothing. And that is sad. Then what happens is that after the weekend, you look at the scale and you realize that weight hasn't even budged a little bit. Then you go even lower, right? So your app had given you 1,200 calories per se. After a week after a week worth of time and effort, you realize that your weight hasn't budged because you binged ate on the weekend. Now you go even lower, right? And then you do 1,000 calories. Because of the self deprivation and starving behavior, and then binging on the weekend, you don't lose any weight and think, oh, that must be too much for me. Imagine even 1,000 calories are too much for you. That is insane. Because even a toddler needs 1,400 calories at times to, support growth. So the reason why you didn't lose any weight wasn't because you were consuming 1,200 calories, or your metabolism has slowed down, or you're broken, or your hormones are helping you in, losing weight. That's not true. You didn't lose any weight because you starved yourself and then gave in into your cravings and binging on the weekend, right? And then this is the cycle you keep going on back and forth to. And it goes on for weeks and weeks and months. And then what happens is that you start believing it's either your genetics, your metabolism, or your body type, or your age that's to be blamed. That's not really the way to go about it, honestly. If you want sustainable results, and if you want to do something that actually works, then I want you to do something different this time. And this is the entire training is about, right? I want you to pick a number that you can sustain for a long time. That's not super low. Where you're able to comfortably eat whatever you want to and still be able to create a deficit that's enough for you to keep losing weight every single week. So I mean, now if you know me, if you've been going through the content that I post on my Instagram, I'm talking about strategies and tools, right? I'm talking about strategies and tools because this is what allows us to deal with daily struggles, daily challenges that life throws our way, right? And in this training, I want to give you the tools and strategies so you can do this on your own as well. So to find out your calorie deficit number, I want you to track your intake for a whole week, right? That is simple. I don't just want you to track your intake, I also want you to track your intake religiously. Track whatever you're eating, track whatever like bites you take from other people's food, or just snacks, or just stuff that you randomly keep on munching on, right? Just track whatever and however you're eating every single day for a week, and then at the end of it, you add your everyday calorie intake and divide the number by 7. That's how many days there are in a week. Right? I'm sorry. That's how you figure out a number. And if you feel like your weight is stuck and is consistent, that may very well mean that you've figured out your maintenance calories. Right? Now, to create a deficit, you can start by reducing a few hundred calories from your everyday's intake. So let's say there is a person A who has a very busy schedule, goes to work every single day. Their intake may be very consistent throughout the week, given that they're not working out. Now there is another person B who is somewhat like the person A, but this person also works out 3 times a week. Their intake may be a little higher than the person A. The strategy will be the same for person A and B. Track your calories for a week, then divide the number by 7, find out the maintenance calories, subtract a few hundred calories from the number, and there you have your calories deficit number. It can apply to people from all walks of life, from students to corporate individuals, to teachers to fitness enthusiasts, and so on. This is how I figure out my own calories, and this is how I figure out my clients' calories intake for them. And this is the way they can do this forever without needing anyone's help. This tool can work for you forever as long as you do it properly. But here's the thing. I know many people who are watching this right now won't do it. The reason it being too simple for you. So most of the people want complicated stuff or things like quick fixes. But guess what? They keep running after that forever and never get the results they're looking for. That's why most of the people haven't been successful with the weight loss, because they hate the basic boring stuff that works, and then they go after the most complicated stuff out there, and it's just sad. People pay me thousands of dollars online, right? And they pay me hundreds of thousands of rupees just to help them with this, to dial in their calories, help them understand how to tweak, to keep making progress, and how to use this tool and eat whatever the fuck they want, so just be happy with it. Because trust me when I say this, right? All my clients who have achieved amazing results, they have done the same thing. Nothing different. Not even an inch. They trusted in me, they trusted the process, they knew this is going to work, and they put in the efforts. Just like them, you can do the same. But only if you're willing to take it slow and do the slow fucking boring stuff without rushing into the process. Because without knowing where you're heading, you're always going to be on the road and would never reach a destination. I mean, if you live in Karachi, so I'll just give an example. You leave from DHA or Clifton, or you leave from Superhighway, and you have to go to Southern, but you don't know where you're at, right? You just know you're on the road, but you don't know where. How would you navigate yourself and reach Southern? You won't be able to. It will be like, you'll probably reach there, but it would most likely be like you in an infinity loop, where you either keep going straight on a deserted road with no end destination, or you keep going back and forth in a cycle, right? So a little thing, right? So let's switch roles. I come to you for help and ask you ask you to help me with my calorie intake. I ask you how to calculate my calories, right? So you ask me, what have I been eating? My response is like, I don't know. I barely know anything. So how much should I be eating? How will you go? You'll be like, well, it really depends on what you're currently doing. Is it not? I think it's just like money, right? So if you come to me and ask me to help you with your finances and budget it, I'll say, well, I'll have to look at your, finances, where you're spending, how much you're earning, your bank statement, so that I can figure out stuff. So that's exactly how we go about dialing your calorie intake as well. That's how we figure what's your maintenance calorie is, and then figure out your deficit. If you don't know what your daily energy expenditure is, just like how much money you're spending, right? Then how will you know your calorie deficit to go where you want to go? If it's taken your 3,000 calories or 5,000 calories per day to get where you're at, you can't go to 1,200 or 1,400 calories all of a sudden and expect yourself to sustain that big of a deficit. Honestly, no one can fucking do it, except for someone who's driven by money, or whose motivation is like very different than us. Maybe pro athletes. Even the best athletes in the world, they go from 4,000 to 3,500 for at least a few weeks before slowly cutting down. So that's why, you might have seen posts like, someone talking about that that there's like 12 weeks left, and each week they cut down 200 to 300 calories. And by the end week, by the end week, where they're in the peak performance, peak physique, right? They're at 1,000 or 1,200 calories. But they go from 4,000 to 1,200 to 1,000 calories very slowly and gradually, and just for a week. That's it. Once they're done with the competition, once they're done with the event, they go back to their maintenance calories, which is again, which varies from person to person, of course. But in in this example, it can be 3,000, 4,000 calories. So let me give you an example, right? Now what you have to do is, you have to track your calories from Monday to Friday, and then Saturdays, Sundays as well. What you can do is, you can start by tracking your intake. One. Second is just write down how many calories you're taking. So it could very well be like on Monday you took 1,300 calories, on Tuesday you took 2,000 calories, and then Wednesday you ate 2,500, and then Thursday you had a very busy week. You had to go to the hospital. Let's say, I don't know why I said it, but yeah, maybe you had to go to the hospital, and you ended up eating nothing. And then Friday you ate 1,600 calories again. Saturday you ate 3,500 calories because you went out with your friends. You ate out. You had cake. Sunday it was your friend's birthday, and also you just allowed yourself to just be a little lenient with your dieting. So you ended up consuming 4,000 calories. All in all, maybe let's say you consumed 17,000 calories per week, right? So divide 17,000 by 7. Let me just quickly do it. So 17,000 divided by 7 is 2,428. That's your average intake, average daily intake. So if you can try and hit this number daily, right, it may very well be your deficit. So stay on this number. The number that you get after tracking your number, after tracking your intake, right? And if you see any difference in your weight scale going down, if you see like your numbers going down, that's cool. It is your calorie deficit. If it's not, reduce 100 to 200 calories, right? So if it's 24-30, you ate between 21 to 23, right? But maybe on the lower end of the spectrum. So 2100, 2050, 22, right? Just in between the range. And this is how you calculate your calorie deficit. Very simple, right? Unlike, what you'll do if you follow my fitness pal's advice. So number one, eat totally normal and track your intake religiously. Eat that number for a while, right, and figure your calorie deficit. Now I also want you to set up your protein target. So maybe zero point 0.5 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if your weight is about, um, let's say if your weight is 90 kg, let's say. So 90 kg into 2.2 is 198 pounds. I think that's way too much for any individual, unless you're like super muscular. Then you can, possibly consume this amount of protein. But for newbies, I don't think this is necessary, because this is like also, this is your current weight, your goal weight, like it's definitely different. Your goal weight maybe 65, 70. So maybe let's multiply 65 into 2.2. You get 143, and you can try hitting 143 because it seems reasonable, right? But if it's too much for you, then start with wherever you're at, increase a little bit. If you're consuming 30 grams of protein per day, then consume 50 grams. If you're consuming 50 grams of protein per day, then consume 80 grams. If you're eating 6,000 calories a day and you eat 5,000 calories a day, you will lose weight. We're not here to make monumental changes. So even with protein intake or with your calorie deficit, we're not going to make a huge change, right? Just have to do small stuff, and that's it. So I know people be like, oh Taha, I don't believe it, right? Because 2400 calories seems like a bit too much, and I think it will never work, right? Or they'll say stuff like, oh Taha, it would have worked when I when I did my intermittent fasting, or when I cut down calories to 1500, right? Well, here's the issue. You go cold turkey, and then after a while you start feeling crazy as fuck cravings, and then you go all out. The issue is in the extreme approaches. Now let's say you start tracking and get to baseline number, you start eating within that range, and you see yourself losing inches and numbers for a month, and then you stop and hit a plateau for a month. I would want you to hold that plateau for a month and then adjust. But if you start making changes every time you don't see any change in the number, in the scale, or in your habits, or in anything, you're going to sabotage your results. And this is what I don't want you to do. So the reason why I said the issue lies in the extreme approaches is because we're like used to of very abrupt changes. We like abrupt changes because it somehow feeds our ego, because we feel good, and it also like fulfills us instant gratification because we feel like something's happening in this fast moving world. But with fitness and health and in long term changes, it doesn't work that way. So now let's say you started tracking, right? And then you stopped seeing any results in your weight scale. What would you do? You would sit with it for a while, right? And then you'll allow your body to fully adjust to it, and then make an adjustment. Weight loss is never linear, so allow yourself some time, right? Lower your calories by 100 or 200, and then keep going again. But that's something that you should do at least after a few weeks, at least after 4 weeks, right? And then have your protein target again. Focus on your protein target. We don't have to make monumental changes again and flip everything upside down. I keep saying this because a lot of people, and myself included, we all try to make like monumental changes. It doesn't work that way. We want to do things that are more sustainable and easy for us to maintain, right? All right, to wrap it up, number one, track your calories and get a baseline number, minus a few hundred calories. And by a few hundred calories, I mean 100 to 300 calories. That's all. Do not go below 1200, 1500 calories until unless you're like, preparing for like a peak competition or something. um, the number will definitely be more than what you're used to. So when you try to lose weight, which is 1200, 1400 calories, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll gain weight or you won't lose any. There's a reason why a lot of people can't seem to lose weight, because especially long term, because they can't maintain low numbers and then end up binging or overeating later on. Your goal should be to eat more volume while losing weight. Your goal shouldn't be to eat less and less in every cycle. If you're eating more while losing fat, while losing fat, you're also ensuring muscle gain, better bone health, better memory health. If you're lifting weights, then more reason for your body to perform better at max and just be better overall in every way. So if you find a high number, don't come and tell me it's too much. Is the right number, because you're eating that number anyway, right? So if you track your calories over a period of time, over a period of week, and then you find out your average, and then you minus a couple of hundreds, and then you still think it's too much, just know that this number has been derived from your average intake. This is how much you've been eating, which unknowingly, most probably, right? But this is how much you've been eating. So just do it. The reason why you'll think that the number is too much, that the calories are too much, is because you've been indoctrinated into believing that you need to eat as fewer calories as possible to lose weight. Another reason why I hate MyFitnessPal. Anyways, MyFitnessPal, the number that they give you is not backed by science at all. It's not how most of the successful people who have the best physiques in the world have done it, or people who have lost weight have done it. If you think it's a lot of calories and food, then good, because you're supposed to eat a lot while losing. You're not supposed to starve yourself to lose weight. It's super unhealthy, and this is why half of you don't even know what you're doing, because half of your days goes by just thinking about the food, right? Because you're eating so less. So let's not do that. People are in such a rush, and they fear that they'll gain weight, that they don't do the right thing the right way. So trust it. Trust the number that you'll get. Trust the process. I know it's hard, but maybe trust me. Trust me, because I know what I'm talking about, and I have helped hundreds of people before you. This is one thing, that works for everyone. The number you'll get will be personalized to you, will be individualized, will be very individual to you, right? But this tool works for everyone. So this is what I do with my clients, right? Another question I wanted to address: if your protein and calories are in check, do not worry about the carbs and fat, because the science tells us that if your protein and calories are equated, carbs and fat don't really matter as much. Carbs and fat don't matter as much for your weight loss. Maybe for performance it can, but there's another topic. But you can have as many carbs as you like, or as much fat as you like, given you stay under your calorie deficit limit. That's it. If that's your goal. So again, to recap, right? Number one, do not just believe MyFitnessPal or online calculators, because it's bullshit. I said it. Number two, track your intake for 3 to 7 days or maybe 10 days. Get an average baseline number. If your average is 2,200 calories, eat between 18 to 2,000 calories. If your average is 3,000, eat between 25 to 26. Minus a few hundred calories. Follow that for at least 4 to 8 weeks. Tweak if necessary. Eat more protein. Don't worry about carbs and fat. As long as your calories are being matched with your daily caloric intake that you've figured after tracking and finding out your baseline number, it is fine. Right? I think this is it. This is it. There's one thing that I want to say, right? The reason why I want you to do this is to show you where to go from the point where you're at. Because otherwise, how the fuck would you know where to go if you don't know where you're at? The same example that I gave just like a little while ago. If you want to go to point X but you don't know where you're at, how would you go? How would you go to point X? Think about it. It's simple. That's it. I hope it helps. Take care.